there's nothing more disheartening. I mean, once you start learning about this, to see, you know, a generator, for example, that it's meant to lit the place up, you know, with your freaking joy, you are setting like the energetic frequency for everyone. And to see them drained and burned out and like buried down by life and like with absolute no spark.
Yeah.
It's painful. Like it's heart freaking breaking. And that's also why I'm so excited to share these things. It's like, I cannot wait to see who you and like, how are you going to embody yourself when you know these things?
Welcome to another episode of the Preparing for Pregnancy After Loss podcast. I am here with my gorgeous, amazing friend, Andrea.
Yes.
And you and I met several years ago, probably like some good 9 years now, in New York City, back when Hay House was having Hay House conferences in New York City. And how did we meet? You stood up in this massive audience of people to either ask a question or share something. And I just really connected with your energy. And after that, I saw you somewhere as we're leaving and I stopped you, which was also side of my nature because like I am shy. I am an introvert and shy as much as people will not believe that because of how much I talk. But the energy was just there and I felt like I had to connect. And we did. We took a picture. I probably should like dig that up wherever that is. And we connected on probably Facebook. And
I think so.
Then Instagram. And I've gotten to, you know, like see your work on Instagram, the beautiful things that you create and all the ways that you practice your healing. And, you know, when we just met, it was through, I think like angel readings.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've connected on essential oils. Actually, some of the tips that I share with my clients on like what oils to use for what, that came directly from you. And now we're reconnecting again. And I love I don't know what to call it. You described it in a way that I love, that we're back in each other's orbit. And I love that is happening. And when we get together, I definitely have literal mind-blowing moments. Like in the midst of our conversations, I have to tell you to just pause because I feel like the energy is just like so I just have to pause to digest and like receive, and then we can keep going. So I'm so grateful that we get to do this.
I'm equally grateful. And can you believe that I had forgot about that part in our story where I stood up in that conference? I had totally forgot about that. But yes, I do definitely remember you coming to me, and I guess that's how energy works, you know, like there's these two souls that recognize each other, even if it's a window of 3 minutes. I don't think that we talked in person more than 3 minutes. But it was like, yes, I see you, you see me, awesome, let's connect. And then and then we're here.
Several years later, here we are.
Yes.
Yeah. So I would love for you to introduce yourself. Also, I listened to the first episode of your new podcast, which was so cool and just so activating. Like I felt fire and energy within me as I listened to that. And something that I am left with is when you mentioned, it's like what's happening in this moment, right? And things get to change. So I guess for your intro, who are you being in this moment, in this time frame? Who are you?
I think no, I feel it in my body for sure. I'm a creator.
Yeah.
And that has taken many, many shapes. But let's say like the latest iteration that feels very alive and it feels very yummy is the intersection between creation and vibration and magic. I think for a very long time, I was a creator of things
Yeah.
And but so much of the focus was on the thing that I was creating. And now I'm dancing between the thing that I'm creating in the physical world with the energy that is behind that in the other realms.
Yeah.
So if I would have to describe myself in one little line, would be I'm a creator of things that infuse our lives with magic. That's what I genuinely feel in my bones. That is the thing that moves me.
Yes, yes. And if anyone just like glances at your Instagram page or your website, they just feel all of that magic coming through.
Yeah, which has been, it has been a process of getting it to that point where it feels like it all comes together and it all feels very ripe. And, like I'm surrounded by colors and I have been very intentional with that. And it's such a joy.
Yummy. Just yummy. So you have a lovely accent. Please tell us where you're from and where you are now.
So I am Colombian and I live in the Netherlands with my husband who's Dutch and my little dog. I moved here, it's going to be 6 years. Yeah, like next month, it's going to be 6 years ago that I moved here. Of course, Spanish is my mother tongue, and then English is my second language, and Dutch is my third language. And then I guess we have like a fourth language that is like a sweet mix of those three that only my husband, my dog, and I speak. And it's a mystery for the rest of the world. Like no one else understands what the heck is going on when we're just jamming and crossing worlds like that. So effortlessly. I just like part of our daily life. So I also joke sometimes that my dog is trilingual, and she is. She could just respond to Dutch, to English, to Spanish. Oh it's just hilarious. Yeah. So that's where my accent comes from. I don't know. I've never, I guess because I'm a Spanish native speaker, I don't hear myself. But of course, if you're an English speaker, you do.
Actually, what did we do the other day? I think when we're talking the other day, my husband was it was when I was listening to your podcast. Mm-hmm. And he was like, oh, she has a really nice Spanish accent. And I was like, I wouldn't know because like I'm not really Spanish speaking, but in English, she also has a beautiful accent.
Awesome that it comes through all over.
Yes, in all the languages.
Yes.
So there is so much that you do, Andrea. I hardly know where to start. But the thing that is pulsating the most of all the things that are now pulsating is your work in human design. So how did that come to be, firstly? And then secondly, what's human design? Or maybe it's the reverse, whichever you want to start with.
Okay, let's do it reverse so you have some context of what I'm going to talk about. So human design is a system that was transmitted through a man. He goes by the name of Ra Uruhu back in the 80s. And it takes streams from different kind of systems and it integrates them and it creates a synergy of them. So it pulls in different systems and it creates its own kind of flavor of it. It's said to be that it's the first system for the era of Aquarius. So it's really like the first system that it's here to help us move and transcend the big upheaval changes and things that we're transiting as humans as a collective consciousness right now. And let's say that that's like kind of like the very basic description, but if we go deeper into it, it's really a system that is here to help us understand our uniqueness. So a lot of it stands for, the fact that we as a society tend to homogenize everyone. And, it's also called the science of differentiation. So it's really understanding how you're different and the fact that different is beautiful and it's required and is necessary. And when we are able to step in that and embody that and understand ourselves better, then of course we're able to, align ourselves with the things that we came here to do, with the experience that we really, really want, with the things that actually really freaking feel good. And that can permeate everywhere. It definitely has a huge impact in the way that you relate with people, in the way that you transit big emotional upheaval moments, in the way that you work, in the way that you create. It has an impact in everything, because ultimately what you're doing is kind of like clicking yourself back into your own alignment. And wow, I mean, that has been huge for me in the past year.
Mm-hmm.
I found human design in May 2020.
Yeah.
I had heard about it before, like it had been in my orbit, but far away. Yeah. And when it really landed, I was quite exhausted. I was quite burned out. I had tried to, and it was just at the early days of the pandemic. So it was all too very overwhelming. Yeah. And one of the things that I first learned about myself through human design was this understanding that I have what it's called as a defined sacral. So my sacral center is what it's called defined, which is basically the understanding that I have a consistent life force, and that's creative juice right there, and that I needed to get in the right relationship with that. So a lot of the things that I created before that, I feel like I was pushing in many ways. I was forcing the creation. I was forcing the process. I was being very rigid, because I had like all these urges and all these desires to, make it, do it, breakthrough kind of thing. But I was cutting off the flow, really.
Yeah.
And I mean, no, that's why I felt like totally burnt out, and I didn't know what was what, and the stuff that I was doing wasn't really fulfilling. It was really like there was some glimpses of fulfillment, but I was like, it can't be that I'm just gonna work with these for the next however many years. Mm-hmm. Until, because that's also like the kind of like our society's promise is like, you do hard, you work hard, go rigid, and then eventually it changes, which is, it's like it's such a mental game, because the truth is, if the process feels like shit, what guarantees that the result feels yummy?
Oh my gosh, yes.
So that definitely put me in a different place. And I mean, the thing with human design as well, it's like, it's your own experiment, you get to receive the information, you get to learn about it as much as you want. And then it's crucial that you experiment with it. Yeah. So if I hadn't really landed on that feeling of, oh, I have been making decisions in the wrong way, literally against myself. My mind is the one saying that I should, or that I, trying to direct me, but my mind is not equipped for that. Like, none of us really are equipped, through human design. I think I've come to understand that, and it's very potent, that our minds are not equipped to make decisions, because it's our body, the one that knows, the one that has the energy.
Yes. Thank you.
And then it's like, oh, are you telling me that I can make gut decisions? So for my energy type and for my specific profile, my way of making decisions is following my gut. Mm-hmm. So, and then learning how that looks like, which is, it's a very yes, no feeling, like expansive, contracting feeling. Mm-hmm. It expresses itself non-verbally, usually. Mm-hmm. If I can verbalize it, then I know that it's my mind. There's some interference there. My mind is already in it. So I need to go like one level deeper. And that has just like opened up so many things, like so many things of the things that I'm creating now, of my art and my self-expression, has refined incredibly through that little process. So I told you a whole big story starting from your two questions, but yeah, that's pretty much.
All of it was necessary. Just all of it. That is, you said so much there. And it was all so juicy and so good. And the part about listening to the body, and that the mind isn't the best decision maker here on the team.
No.
you know?
No, indeed, and that has been huge to understand that the mind is brilliant to help you articulate stuff, to help you gather inspiration.
Yeah.
That's the function of the mind, literally just like translating inspiration into words, so then you can speak it out and other people can understand it.
Yeah.
But it's not meant to like direct the way that you invest your energy, and ultimately our lives are based on those decisions on how we use our energy, right? The moment that we're born, you know, even when we're really like little babies, we've made decisions, you know, to come to this earth in a specific moment at a specific time, all that. And then as we grow up, then we start choosing for things, right? And it is in those choices ultimately that we get to live life and we get to experience life. Some choices are conscious, some choices are subconscious, right? And then we can, there's like, that's a whole different, a whole other world. But yeah, ultimately the understanding that it is in the way that you make decisions, the way that you live your life is it has been pretty significant. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And from sharing it with regards to how it showed up in your life and how it has helped you. Because based on what you're saying, it has unlocked your work and your creative ability. And it sounds like there is less effort that you have to put into creating because you're in the flow.
Yeah. There's less resistance. You know, and I think that that's also something that I feel very excited about. Sometimes there's this conception like, like once you're aligned, like everything flows. And yes, that's true. But there's also sometimes like a certain exertion, like you still got to swim, you know, there's still things that you want to do and hours that you want to put into, you know, a project or a job or your business or your relationships, whatever. But there is less drainage in a way. So it's more like you're more carrying your energy and your energy is carrying you and you're less leaky.
Yes. Wow. Amazing.
Yeah.
Something else that struck a chord for me is when you, yes, it's still going back to the body, but also the fact that each person's body is different. Each person, I'm thinking of how I have described it, which is the language of your body or the language of your soul, and how that's different for every person. So as I'm working with different clients, I get to understand how does your body speak? How does your soul speak? For you, it's clearly art. Like, look at the beautiful images and colors behind you, right? For other people, it might be dancing. I was literally just singing in the shower. And it's so interesting. So for me, it's definitely singing. Like I had some inspiration and I felt the energy like here and it needed to come out. And I just like had to sing because my voice had to carry that energy out, right?
Yes.
I understand that so well about myself that I don't even question it. My husband hears me just singing out 1 and 2 lines all the time. He's used to it by now. But I think when you don't know that that is the language of your soul or the language of your body, you don't engage with it. You're like, oh, that sounds crazy. Why would singing be a way that I heal? Or why would art or being out in nature be a way that I heal? And it's because it's the language of your soul. It's how you express yourself in the most authentic way. And so that rebalances you and heals you. So I just love
absolutely
that.
100%. And the thing is also, for me, you know, art has been part of my life as long as I can remember.
Yeah.
And then that I had these moments in life where art kind of like took like a background, even sometimes like completely went like transparent. Because so much of the focus was on like, what am I going to do in life? You know, quote unquote, what's the big thing that I'm here for? What's like all these kind of like purpose questions.
Yeah.
And I've come quite I'm not sure if full circle. I'm probably going to go full circle for the rest of my life on this, but I've literally come to a place where I've really come to understand that the things that come natural to me and the things that I think are just common human experience are not. And it's been beautiful to honor that, to honor the fact that yes, I am colorful. I love color. I love being surrounded by color. You can definitely see it if you're watching the video. And that's just something that needs to come out of me.
Right.
And I have played with different mediums and expressed like myself in different ways. And I feel like now I'm finding like my really good sweet spot where I can get to play a lot with that. So yeah, I totally feel like what you're saying about the language of your body. And I'm curious to your experience, but for sure, one of the best ways for me to have traced that and to, kind of like dig it out of that place where I put it, how many years ago back in that corner, has been to tune into what did I love when I was a child. I absolutely always have been anywhere with a notebook and some markers, or like every single person that has met me since age 5 will testify. And maybe that's very clear for you, like you've had something like that is like it's been very present within you, and that is something worth exploring. And if you can't pinpoint something, I think just asking yourself, like, if you were a child right now, what would you like to explore? And maybe that's something that you've never tried. Maybe that's, I don't know, signing up for a knitting class or a watercolor class or baking cookies, or I don't know. But I think that that's a very good way to get in touch with that language of you that is beyond the stories and the mental constructs.
So true. Oh my gosh. The other thing that's coming to mind is energy. And I know that is definitely your world and my world. Some of the listeners, they're going to be like, all right, now they're getting into this woo kind of territory. I promise we're not. Energy is real. Science has now proved it. Not that we need to get
back it up.
Science, but in case anyone is like, all right, where are they going with this now? So from your perspective, what is energy? How would you describe it, define it?
Wow, I love that question. I think energy is ultimately everything. So I know that this sounds vague, but let me try and explain what I mean. If you take, and I think that it's brilliant that you mentioned the science piece, which is something that I feel very excited about.
Yeah.
Although I have an affinity for, the, let's call it like woo stuff, 100%, I have come to fully embrace that side of me out in the open, which has been also part of that very cool transition that I've done in the past year. But it's also the understanding of, kind of like what quantum scientists are discovering right now. And that is so freaking exciting. Just the understanding, and this has blown my mind like in multiple ways. But if you go to the simplest, most tiny part of the atom, you will see that it's like 0.00001 matter, and the rest is just energy. And like what a lot of the scientific experiments and observations around that, it's like that matter just changes because it's almost because like the energy that it carries is like, it's huge. So you can shift it with your perception, which is mind-boggling for some people. Now, if you add that, if you realize that the tiniest part of an atom is part of an atom, and then two atoms together form a molecule, and so on and so forth, until you have these bigger structures of life, these different molecules will create different compounds, and then different cells, and cells create organs, and organs create bodies, and bodies, here we are, human beings, right? And all the rest of the things that we see. It's like if you added that 0.0001% matter and that 99%, like 999% energy, every single time you added one of those little bits together, wow, suddenly what we're seeing right now, like if I'm seeing you or, anyone that is listening, you are the 0.001% matter, like what you're seeing, your physical body, and the rest. So the 99.99999% remaining is energy. So what a shift in paradigm to think about things that way. Yeah. And how that has a huge impact, not just in, I think that's the transition we're slowly starting to make as a human species. It's changing that model from very Newtonian understanding of the world, like a gravity and like all these very Newtonian rules, for a more quantum thing, for a more quantum experience, where there is this energy field that it's infinite, possible. It has everything that it's ever been created, and all the possibilities of everything that has not been created yet. And then we get to play into that if we choose to insert ourselves in that game. And it's a totally different new language for us human beings to play with, because we have been playing on the other field for so long. We have been playing in the realm of matter for however many thousand years. So entering into this energetic stream is like, for some people, it's like, what? For people like me, it's like, I don't know if this is, it has to come from that place. I'm like, yes, there's a part of me that remembers the truth of that. And I'm so freaking excited. That's also what human design gets me very excited about. It is the understanding of our energy. Awesome. Our bodies are kind of like the containers of that energy in this particular life. But there's so much to learn about the energy.
You're saying all the things. I just want to swim into that. You're just saying all the things, and I just, the magic of it. I'm just... Yes, which is why I had to open my arms, because the energy was literally just we need to move.
Love it.
I love that you're saying that. And I feel like you have more to add. So
plenty. So no, I do believe that when we start understanding how we interact with each other energetically, which goes way beyond the things that we've been taught, that's the reason why, just going back to the beginning of our conversation, obviously our energy resonated with each other. We resonate at a deeper level that has transcended time, space. And that's the power of energy, and then we go into this huge collective forgetting, and we are living kind of this muggle life, just trying to move matter with matter, and we forget that there's an energy realm. And that's why I describe, I do feel that's magic in and of itself, because it has all those qualities that magic has. It has that excitement, it has that potential, it has that vibrational possibility. And then, and then you experience synchronicities and things that come together, and it's like, wow.
Ooh. Thank you for
You're welcome.
That explanation. Thank you. It's what I'm thinking of is how often, you might think of someone, you give them a phone call, and they're like, "Oh, I was just thinking of you." I came up on the work of this amazing teacher named Malidoma Somé. He teaches a lot about ancestral healing and connecting with the ancestors. And as I was listening to his video, I kept thinking of a friend of mine who is living somewhere else in the country, who we're close friends, but we're not always in touch. But you know, when you reconnect with a friend and it's like no time has passed, like we're those kinds of friends. And I said, I don't know why, but I feel like I should share this with you. And I sent her the video. And she was like, Nat, you don't even know. Like, I needed this. Like, I needed this. And I was like, okay. And that's all that needed to be said. And that was such an important reminder for me to continue to listen to spirit, continue to listen to the energy, and not need it to be logical, not need it to make sense.
Yes.
Ask, okay, so what's going on in your life right now? I just listened to this video and I just want to make sure that it's for you. I was just like, you know what? Thought of you. Like, you don't even know the stuff that I'm going through right now and how this is exactly what I needed. That's energy. It's everywhere. Yes. And it's connected to everyone.
And everything.
Right.
And I think that that's such a wonderful experiment, you know, like people that pop into your mind, you know, that you just remember, like it's almost like you just drop, they really drop into your energy field. And it's like, oh, I actually also had that, I kind of like did a little experiment with that the other day. So I have a friend of mine, and I genuinely think that when you have those kind of friends that time and space can dissolve, you're really friends on a totally different plane. You know, you have friendships that are kind of more like earthy friendships that you need to nourish, kind of like a plant, you know, that you need to water and take care of, and they're beautiful. And then you have those more cosmic friendships that they just fly up, like, you don't know where they live in the world. And suddenly there's that moment of synchronicity and you match and you can just talk forever.
Yeah.
And I think that that's such a juicy thing. And what I was saying is, like, I did a little experiment with this. So I have a friend of mine, very cosmic friendship kind of thing. Let's make that a term. And in our dynamic, there's always this thing that it's almost like he calls me energetically. I'm the one that takes action, like in the physical plane. Like, I'm the one that sends a text. I'm the one that reaches out, right? And then we have a deep talk. It feels super juicy. Probably we catch up like in, a 3-hour call, and then we release each other for another year, And he dropped into my field, and I was like, it's been a year since we talked last time. But I'm gonna hold myself back, like not like holding myself back in a restrictive way, but just like kind of like in that experiment, playful place of like, I'm gonna wait and see if you actually get to me. Yeah. And he did. That never happened. Like, all honesty, in our whole, like, we've been friends for, I don't know, maybe like 15 years by now.
Wow.
And it had never happened that he would actually just out of the blue reach out. Wow. And he did. And he was like, I've been thinking of you, and it's been a really long time. I was like, yes, this is such a freaking cool thing. So yeah, that to say that is so true. Yeah.
And it speaks so much to the power of our intuition, which gets dismissed. And I, of course, have to also bring in the element of being a woman. How, over centuries, we've been described as being emotional, not being a positive thing. Right? Emotional and irrational. And when I think of that now, it's almost laughable, because the power of your emotions, people don't even know. To be able to tap in and tune into your emotions and move from that place, so much power. It
so much
all the time. It wins over logic all the time. Right? So to be able to tune into your emotions and listen, like you mentioned, your gut. Listen to your gut and your body. There's so much power in that, because you're tapping directly into spirit. right? You get to flow with that as I want to
Absolutely.
make a distinction between like feminine energy and women, because both men and women, or, however you identify, they have both feminine and masculine energy. But to be able to tune into the feminine energy and dance with it, and then you can apply logic or the masculine to create a strategy for executing it, right? But I think creation starts with that flow, with that feminine energy. And we're dismissed for being
Yes.
emotional, irrational, not being able to think clearly. We don't need to think. We need to dance and create art and move and walk in nature and listen to spirit and have some way for that to be expressed in the world.
Oh, yes. Amen.
So much of
Absolutely.
is helping people to reconnect with that place.
Hmm.
Much of that is helping particularly women and birthing people to trust their bodies again, to be able to listen to themselves again, and know that inside of them there is this compass that guides them. And once they remember the truth to it, then they can never feel alone or lost in the world, right? They're always connected, always guided, because that lives inside of them.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And going back into the human design conversation, it is the understanding that we have an inbuilt compass. And it might express itself different in each one of us. So, for example, in my personal case, is my gut.
Yeah.
And I mean, this has a different kind of like language than other, like more common conversation around self-development and self-empowerment and stuff like that. But, some people do have, for example, like a solar plexus, like that, the solar plexus and the emotions, the raw emotions are their compass. Some people have spleen, which is way more into the instinctive and intuitive. That's like super fine-tuned, millimetrical compass, And then we grow up in societies that disconnect us from that. Yeah. So of course we feel lost. Of course we make shitty decisions. Of course we're investing our energies in things that actually don't work. Of course it takes us a while to freaking understand what is all these mess, all this chaos, and introduce kind of like a coherent vibration that starts aligning the chaos that has been created. And it's a process, and it takes, dedication. I think more like of an energetic intention towards it. I think time and space are very relative when it comes to that. It can take eons, it can take a second, but I think that going back to what you were saying, we get lost because we get disconnected from that it's our compass.
Yes.
And then when you start integrating that and start realizing that you do have like that, you are not like it's virtually impossible that you are lost when you are plugged in. It's like obviously that you feel lost if you are literally outside of yourself in a way.
Right.
And of course things feel hard, and of course it like life feels like a freaking uphill run. So yeah, how cool is it to start making little incremental experiments? I definitely emphasize that, and that has been my own way of playing with human design, and that's something that I've been more vocal about, that because of course there's a lot of people doing this work. Google it, it's everywhere. But what I've come to know, and what I've part of my discovery with the whole process that I've been through in the past year is like, what is the flavor that I'm bringing to this? And for me, it definitely feels that it's around play and exploration and experimentation and adventure. That's so much part, like as much as the colors are part of me, that thing is like the next ingredient in the list. Yeah.
Amazing. So I've thought of human design as having different archetypes almost, but yeah. So what are the different, I know they're not called archetypes, but what are the different types within humans?
Yeah. So this is also the thing that is, for me, it's super exciting because there's layers upon layers upon layers of things that you can dig into and discover. Let's say that if we were to see it kind of like as an iceberg, in a way, like the tip of the iceberg is the energy types. So there are 5, and we can, within 5 energy types, we can classify, quote unquote, we can group humanity in those 5 types.
Taking notes. Anyone
yes.
should be taking notes right now.
Yes. So those are, so what I was saying is those are the 5 main groups. Here is a thing that I think is super important for everyone to know and understand. And it's pretty much like how astrology works as well. You can be an Aries, I can be an Aries, and we can have a totally different experience of life. And that has to do with the fact that the rest of the information in your astrology chart might be in a totally different place. So it's very similar with the energy types. Of course, there are things that you're going to recognize, that your soul is going to say, yes, that's freaking me. And then it's super worth exploring the unique flavor of your own design. Yeah. So that, just to make it like a clear stance on that. So the 5 main ones are manifestors, which are here to initiate. They're the initiators. And guess what? They're not that many, like statistically. And here is also the thing. We are in a society it's obsessed with making it happen. Oh my God. But if you are literally not built for that energetically, it's going to freaking feel like an uphill. I used to operate as a manifestor for my whole life. I thought that I needed to make things happen. And then I could relax in the fact that I didn't. Yeah. And that doesn't mean that things don't happen, but they happen from a different place. They come to you in a different way. And I think that that's awesome to understand. So we've got manifestors, which have the power of starting and initiating. Then we have generators. I'm a generator. And we're here really to respond to life. So instead of making things happen, we see life. It's almost like we're watching what's going on, and there's a frequency. There's something that is going to light up. It's either in a conversation or someone mentioned something. Sometimes you see patterns through conversations, through people, through things you watch on TV, through your Instagram feed, and suddenly everything is talking to you about the same thing, and then you pick that up. If it feels exciting and you feel like, oh yes, that sounds delightful to, just go into that. Yeah. That's a clear sign of that's a thing to do. And they're very geared towards satisfaction.
I feel like you're
deep satisfaction. I'm very curious. I'm very curious to know what your specific design is. Then we have a hybrid type that it's a manifesting generator. So it's a hybrid between the manifestor and the generator, but it really operates from the generator. So it needs to respond to things to then be able to initiate things. They're really quick people. They love learning, trying different things, having a bunch of projects at the same time. That is very much the manifesting generator energy. Of course, again, this has nuances and very granular detailing. So that's important to know. But that's kind of like the overall. Then we've got projectors, which are very interesting. I'm surrounded by many of them, and it's been really interesting to understand. So projectors, you have kind of like 2 different types of projectors. They're not particularly separated within the human design structure, but you have ones that are very defined in their energy. So they come here with a lot of gifts in the way that they can guide their energy and then help others guide their energy as well. They're really like the guides of the group. And then you have the ones that are very undefined in their energy, meaning they have only like a couple of energy centers that are active within them. And they have the beautiful gift of learning a lot of things, like learning and becoming very wise in many ways, and then guiding from that wisdom. So it's kind of like you have these ones that come already with the thing inbuilt, and the other ones that develop that wisdom through life.
So I have a question there that I need to get in before I forget it.
Yes.
For those who come in with not a lot of the centers being defined,
mm-hmm.
is it that the potential already exists, that they're already that kind of person, and so it's easy for them to take in that information so that they can show up and be the guide? Does that make sense?
Tell me again.
So we have some who come in and it's defined, like their gifts are clear.
Yeah.
Others whose centers, was that the right term?
Yeah.
Are not as defined. So for those whose centers are not as defined, you know how sometimes in the process of doing something, it can feel like an uphill battle, like you've been describing. I'm wondering if for those projectors whose centers aren't defined, but because they are projectors, if it's easier for them to actually gain the information to be able to step into that purpose, quote unquote.
Yes. So here is the interesting thing, like the way that they're going to do that, the way that they're going to put themselves like in the vicinity of those frequencies that they're here to learn is by really digging into what they want, like what obsesses them, like that thing that just feels freaking yummy. And they can go into long rabbit holes, in learning about, I don't know, it can be something as simple as how to make bread until like quantum physics, like name it, anything in that realm. And they will experience so much and they will learn so much through those phases of kind of like obsession about the things that they're passionate about. And then the interesting thing is there's the fifth type is reflector, which is completely undefined. They come here with a completely open energy field. And if you would think about it as like how that would play out in more ancestral setting, the reflectors would be these kind of people that are great seers. They would be, they're rare. They're like 1% of the population. And they're here to sample our energy and give back what, it's this reflective nature of I'm showing you something, and then they just hold up kind of like a mirror for you to see what you are putting out. And we need that because, they're ultimately our highest guides. So if you want to put it like kind of like in a, let's say like in a tribal setting, the reflectors would be these very, very connected people to the cosmic energy. Then they receive that message, and then the projectors are the one that kind of like organize, the rest. Yeah. Then the initiators are the ones that are always at the front, always like knowing where to go. And it, like generators and manifesting generators have the life force energy to put into whatever endeavor. Mm-hmm. This in a beautiful society that understands this perfectly, that absolutely honors and cherishes each other for those gifts. And I think that that's where we're making it slowly and steady as humans do. But but we can live that. We can live that right now. We have the knowledge to do that. And the more you learn about yourself and, maybe the people around you, and start to understand like, okay, this is how we can work with each other, work with our energy with each other, meeting each other with more tenderness and more understanding and more awareness. Wow. Can you imagine like the abundance of possibilities that open up? Yes. So those are the 5 main types. And again, within that, there's like oceans, oceans of wisdom that you can dig out and play with and explore and have fun remembering who who you set up yourself to be in this life.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
It's this is just bringing home how important it is that you are living who you came here to be, that you're doing that, because if not, you're missing somewhere.
Oh,
Like, tribe is there thinking, we're missing someone. Something's missing. Something isn't working right now.
oh, and you know, there's nothing. I mean, I've been learning this, and I've been, you know, again, this has been my jam. I've been loving this for a solid year, and I mean, it happened to me the same as when I started learning astrology a couple of years ago. I just wanted to know everyone's. Like, I just wanted to, you know, sit in that really like student, you know, perspective of like, I just want to understand better how this interaction worked. And just for myself, you know, like I just for me to know, to understand. And yeah, you know, like it's such a beautiful thing when you see I don't know, let's make it an example, like a manifester, even when they don't know, because this is the beautiful thing as well. Human design will give you language to a lot of the experiences that you've had already. That's the beauty of it. Like, this is not going to come to you as a out of the air, you know, out of like, not even the air, like out of a vacuum revelation. Like, this is going to feel like, oh my God, like she's talking about me. Like, I guess really, honestly, 90% of the time is going to feel like, yes, that's me. The other 10% is going to be like, how is that truly me, you know? But then it reveals itself, and it's really beautiful. And what I was going to say, back to what you were saying before, it's really, there's nothing more disheartening. I mean, once you start learning about this, to see, you know, a generator, for example, that it's meant to lit the place up, you know, with your freaking joy, you are setting like the energetic frequency for everyone. And to see them drained and burned out and like buried down by life and like with absolute no spark.
Yeah.
It's painful. Like, it's heart freaking breaking. And that's also why I'm so excited to share these things. It's like, I cannot wait to see who you and like, how are you going to embody yourself when you know these things?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes.
And yeah, I mean, it has been my experience, and I, again, you know, like that's also my path. It's been learning through experience and then sharing that, and it's like, my God, I cannot wait. You know, I've seen it in myself, I've seen it in my husband, although he's not very much into this. But hey, this is also the beautiful thing. For example, with him, he will never really like read or, you know, fully ask me like a human design question in the context of human design. But guess what? Like, I know his, you know, I've studied his chart. He's probably the second chart that I've like studied. And it's like, oh, okay. So your biggest energy drain is frustration, just like me. So when you're very frustrated, you're going to deplete your energy like in a blink. And I said that, just kind of like put it out there one day that he was feeling really off.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful to see him now, like in conversation with other people, saying like, you know, I've learned that my energy drain is frustration. And I'm like, who told you that? I told him that. It's and it feels so true for him, because it is in his, you know, it's baked in his energy. He doesn't have, you know, like, he doesn't know exactly what is what, and he knows by now what energy type he is. He's been more curious since I've been doing this, you know, offering readings and all that. But other than that, he's just like, okay. And then he does, and it's beautiful to see him also recognizing those things. So that's a little bit connected to the thing that I was saying before. You're going to recognize these things. Mm-hmm. And human design is just a beautiful way of merging, you know, language and understanding, and like a system with your empirical, experiential information. And then you bring those two together, and then you have a whole the whole world.
Just like, wow, this is amazing. And I'm so excited for you to read my chart, to interpret it. So that's going to happen very soon because I'm so curious.
I am ready.
So you shared about, it being so disheartening when you see someone who is meant to be lighting up the world just in a very different place. And I thought of myself as I was working in spreadsheets in a certain industry, which I will not name now. I must say that it served its purpose. I was there for a reason, but
I feel exactly the same as you. Exactly the same. I was working as a graphic designer for a company that I landed there. It had a purpose. I know for sure. I know I've taken it in. I know that it needed to happen at the time. But if I look at myself, what I was doing back then and what I'm doing now, it's like, who was that chick? I'm completely, fully like fluorescent being compared to that version of myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It's so important to know this. Just one, know who you are, but also give yourself the permission to be who you are.
Oh, and that's, I think, that one of the biggest gifts, that it gives you a permission slip. Not that you needed it, but there's a part of you that probably does. Not that at your soul you needed it, but there's somewhere where you actually just need that granted open door to be yourself. Right. And that's one of the gifts that it gives you, for sure.
And this conversation might be the activator for a lot of people. It's like when you sense something intuitively and you hear it outside of you, you're like, oh, that resonance. Like, oh, yes, that makes sense. So this conversation might be that. When I was working in that industry, and I spent several years there, because really I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it made sense to be actively doing something in my life than like sitting at home wondering what to do. And in all honesty, it's going through those experiences that bring you closer and closer to who you're meant to be. Right. So I remember just observing people and having conversations with people and realizing that they hated their jobs. It would be, how's everything? Oh, it's Monday. And it's almost like people were living for the weekend. Just like, if you've seen the movie Soul, I don't know if you've seen it. Right. When you're just like in this dark place, and the weekend, oh my gosh. And really, the weekend is just Saturday, because by Sunday you have anxiety. And I was like, something is wrong. This doesn't make sense. There has to be a way that people can actually be working, like have jobs and live joyful lives. And that's what led me to becoming a coach. Because there would be these younger women in the office who were drawn to me and would come to me for, it really was mentorship or like legit coaching in a conference room, just because they connected to my energy. And I just wanted to be doing more of that work. And I myself didn't love my job. And so I wanted to find fulfillment in doing something. So that led me to coaching. And after having my first loss, that's what kind of put me on a path to working with women, specifically who've gone through like pregnancy loss or infertility or challenges around the pregnancy journey. So I would have been doing healing work regardless. Like I know for sure that that's in my blueprint. Like healing is somewhere. When you look at my chart, healing, this kind of work is somewhere there. It
will show up.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
And the platform became this platform because of my experience. And I'm going to like let out a secret to my audience. I'm wondering if I should share it, but we'll just see. It might be edited out. Or it might say, if you hear it, that means that I decided to keep it. So the population that I work with, The people that I support in their healing are women or birthing people who've gone through pregnancy loss, infant loss, infertility, right? And when they connect with me, it's mostly because they want to prepare their bodies and minds for their next pregnancy, right? That's their goal. So to give birth again, that's why they're here, right? For me, my work is to support you in giving birth to yourself. Like, who are you now becoming? Who do you have the potential to become after the experience you just went through? Because nothing will be for nothing. You will not go through shit, through the depths of hell, and just decide that if I have my baby, I'm going to be okay. Like, that there's a rebirth that wants to happen in your life. And if I can support you in your rebirth, everything in your life improves. Your relationship, your career, how you show up in the world. So like, that's my agenda in the background. Like, I'm helping you to give birth to yourself. And yes, the baby, we're going to do that too. But like you,
Oh, I mean, I don't know. Again, if this is gonna go in, I feel that when you say that. What a potency. And I'm not a mother, and I haven't gone through any of the, painful situations that you have described. Or no, I'm not gonna label painful. I guess the experience of that. But what I can intuitively feel in that is that, yes, it is a rebirth. Like the moment that the child is birthed is the moment that the mother is rebirthed.
Yes.
And I think as a society, we forget. And that's also why, tending to the mother is such a precious thing, because in a way, she's almost as raw and tender and not fragile as in like weak, but like preciously out of like a cosmic experience, which is bringing a kid into life.
Yes.
Because if you actually think about it from an energetic perspective, going back to the energy, it's like this baby is making it earthside from the cosmos. So what do you think? Like, you are actually a channel for that.
Oh my gosh.
So freaking cosmic energy is moving through your body. Yes. That has to do something with you. Like that. I mean, not to trivialize it or anything, but at a different frequency. Obviously there's some women that experience depression after that.
Yeah.
It's a disorientation.
Yes.
And I think that work like the one that you do to help in that reorientation process, to help that rebirth experience. Wow. I mean, I was all covered in goosebumps when you were saying that previously.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh. Like all of it is so important. Like I'm making a circular motion with my hands. It's so important. I was with a couple this week giving birth, and there were several times that I almost cried because of how beautiful the experience was. Several times. Because I go in with the knowing, just like you said, you're bringing your baby earthside. You're bringing your baby from the non-physical into the physical. Even though there's like a physical, fetus inside of you, this baby is coming directly from spirit and emerging into the world, right? And so, going back to this idea of rebirth, who do you need to be able to usher that process in? to be able to bring in your baby, this pure energy coming in. Who do you need to be able to do that? Right? And there's so much to this. I don't even know what to say first, but let me just start somewhere. One thing is that after you've gone through like loss and infertility, you feel broken as a human being. Your body feels broken and not enough. And you holding that life inside of you, it's with that energy of brokenness, with that energy that something is going to go wrong, with that energy that you're not strong enough. And we know that energy creates. So that's the stuff that your baby's in while your baby's in your body. That's one. The process of giving birth is a labor-intensive one. Some cases, or in most cases. For some people, it can be orgasmic, ecstatic, but there is constant motion and energy and movement that's happening, right? Which is why being a birth doula is so important, because you get to help to protect that space, or I as a birth doula, help to protect that space, and also support the birthing person and their partner into what's happening now, what's coming up next, what needs to be in your mind and emotions and in the movement in your body to help for this next flow to go the way that it can, right? So all of that is happening. And in this birth, it was non-medicated, completely natural. It was challenging, right? But after giving birth, I know that this woman now knows for sure that she can do anything.
Invincible. Isn't that like
the power of this cosmic process?
Definitely.
And the other thing that happens after, or that could happen after a birth, is things might not go as well. Things might go very differently from how you planned. And then that again leaves you feeling broken. Like, oh, I'm a woman, my body should have been able to do this and it didn't. And there's so many things at play that lead to that. Firstly, what support did you have during your labor? Did you feel like you were doing it alone? Did you feel unsafe in the environment? Have you had past trauma so that it's hard for you to be in your body and trust in your body? So it's not your fault that something went wrong. It's that all of the elements that needed to create the environment that you needed might not have been there. I haven't added this to my website yet, but it's been like pulsating within me that I need to also say that after giving birth, even if your baby's at home with you, your healing needs to happen. Because then you go back to work and think, oh, I failed at giving birth the right way.
Wow.
So how do I show up as a person who is like confident and capable? I failed at doing this thing that I should have been able to do as a woman or as a birthing person. And so how do I mother? How do I parent? Am I even capable of doing that?
Wow.
So those are all the things that I come to my sessions and my coaching interactions with, that I introduce a bit of it over time. I always meet the person where they are, but it's like there's a universe that's happening, and any part of it that you want to engage with, we start there. But in my mind, it's like I'm thinking of all of you and all of the spaces that you will interact with, and I want you to be okay. Because if you're okay, then you're an amazing mother and partner and team or head of a company and community leader.
Oh, I feel this in every cell of my body. And if I can just interject, like through my perspective, like through my field, it's like what you were saying about the energy, like the environment, just from a human design perspective. Curating our environment is so freaking important. And then can you imagine that you come to a place where you are in the rawest moment of creation and your environment it's that if it needs to hold you.
Yes.
So then you can hold the process of delivering that kid. And again, I have zero experience with this, like not personal, not professional, anything. But if I can just tune into that, it's like so important. And then it's going to look different for you than it looked different from your sister or your mother or your friend. They might all have had different stories. Awesome. That was their story. And you may require different things. You may require very specific kind of like support. And I think that's beautiful on the work that you do and meeting people where they're at.
Right.
Because then you're able to create that together and figure out what those things are.
Right.
Wow.
I'm just like pulsating and vibrating all over right now. Ooh. Can I also say that wait, that's not the thing that wants to come yet. Let me just pause and like feel into the energy. Yeah, I'm grateful that I got to share that, and I'll definitely keep it because I think it's important for people to know that as significant as a child is, you also need to be okay.
And again, my intersection on this, it's like, I think I've been thinking a lot about this again, because I don't have my own kids yet. We do have an idea that we would like a family. There's absolutely no timeline on that. But a lot of the conversations that we've had around that and my realization, I guess like my process of elaborating the pre-mother phase, again, knowing that I'm probably never prepared to what that actually feels like, looks like on the other side. It is also this understanding and like, you needed to be well while your baby was in your womb, because the baby's health and well-being depended on your health and well-being. It's exactly the same as when the baby goes out, like the thing though is that now, of course, your baby, yes, it feeds from you if you're choosing to breastfeed, clear. But your baby is not just feeding on milk, Your baby is feeding on your emotions, on your energy, on the environment that it's surrounded by. Again, if we go back into the energy conversation, babies are like the purest receptors of energy ever. And if you are not well as a mother, as a caregiver, as a father, what is the imprint that baby is getting from tender one day old? and this is not, I must, like, this just dropped in. This is not about perfection. This is not about nailing it at the whatever standard you have in your mind. But this is about like really getting to know yourself, like so much that that when you need help, like your body tells you, I cannot do this alone, then you ask for help. Yeah. When you feel depleted, you know that you need to go and replenish yourself, because there's absolutely no one benefiting from you walking around with an empty tank. Right. and splaying that energy of empty, like of vacuum, So, those have been my musings about the pre-mom life. and I'm very aware that might look different in many contexts. Yeah. I'm very well aware that that's not it's not a cookie cutter. It's not a all sides fits all. It's not, but fine tuning into what it is yours, what it is you, right, is the thing that I think is key.
Right. I'm so glad you added that, because that's so important. And there's a lot of discussion and awareness now around ancestral trauma, ancestral healing. So it could be from your foreparents, but it's also from your parents, the people who are your caregivers. And a lot of, people have this experience. They know this. When you're in therapy or doing some form of healing work, it's your parents that come up. It's how you were raised that come up. And whether you felt loved, whether you felt as though you belonged. And the other piece to that is sometimes not acknowledged or within our lives, right?
Mhm.
What were the experiences that our parents were going through? What trauma had they been dealt from their caregivers and those around them and the external world? And I firmly believe that if everyone takes responsibility for their healing, then we don't need to pass that on to our children. Our children, as these pure receptacles, get to just come in and be themselves and do their work,
Mm.
having to undo and unlearn and detangle.
So much.
They picked up, right? And going back to
Yeah.
the point, perfectionism isn't possible. But the most that we can do for ourselves, it's the less that we get to give them to do
Yeah.
for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Totally. Totally. And I think also in the spirit of that, this is also something new that I've been playing with. And it's like that wound that you carry is also part of the human experience up until now, up until like we become like a really cosmic galactic species. I think we're going to carry that. And one of the things that I have come to understand, which has been beautiful, it's like, how about we treat that as a sacred wound? And instead of trying to fix it and like really heal it in the way of like, let's like stitch this thing together kind of thing, we just keep it clean. And we're able to see when that spot is sore, when that thing gets kind of like triggered or poked by the outside world or a circumstance or whatever. And then when you do that to yourself, I mean, I can only imagine, like this is kind of like my vision is like, what can you do for your children?
Mm-hmm.
So, it's almost like, because I guess there's also a lot of conversation of like, if you deal with all your stuff, that you don't pass it to your kids. I do think like, again, it's a human being. There will be parts that you are not going to nail because you're human. Period. Like there's nothing faulty there. It's just the human experience, how it's coded, basically. But I think the difference is, can you imagine the radical different experience that child is going to have when you are aware that what it is experiencing is a transfer of your own pain, and you're able to be with that and grow with that. Like, wow.
I'm like full.
Me too.
My body's full, my heart is full. That feels so good. I'm sure that has blessed and will bless someone's experience.
Absolutely.
Someone needed to hear that, and this is going to be the thing that changes things for them moving forward. We aren't just these physical beings, we aren't just like a skeleton and like a frame with like flesh and blood. Their energy, like you said, is most of who we are. Energy is in our voice, in what we create, in how we move. We are expressing energy in physical form. And I love saying that because it brings the power back to people. They realize that, or I hope they realize that if they can change the energy, then they can change the external manifestation. A thought that has been sort of like with me in the past several weeks, because I just finished an energy healing course. And at the end of the course, I was like, everything is energy healing, because everything is energy. We're just working with energy and playing with energy in a different way. And I think what we call energy healing is like playing with energy in the purest form, like Reiki and those other forms of energy, kinetic energy medicine. It's like in the purest form of energy in its potential, like unmanifested, right? So you get to shape it, shape shift. If anyone is like an airbender, an avatar airbender fan, you get to shape shift the energy, right? And things that manifest in our lives and in our bodies, it's coming from energy. So if we get to work with the energy and heal the energy and move the energy, we get to influence and direct what shows up,
Yes.
So we can work with energy from the physical, what has manifested state, and sort of like effort our way into changing it. Or we can go to energy from its purest state, the state that flows and frees and is open.
Yep.
Freely and is open. And we get to shape shift that.
Yep.
I want to leave people with that reminder that there is so much available to them. So much available to you to work with energy and to heal things or to activate things and to bring more things that you want. Right?
Yes, absolutely.
I would love for you to share your info, because I think obviously understanding human design is a way of learning what your internal compass is so that you get to be more intentional about how you move in the world. You're moving from your place of authenticity, really. Right?
Yes, 100% indeed.
Share your info so people know where to find you.
Yes. So you can come to my world at nourishingwitch.com. That's where all the things that I work on, that I'm offering, live. That's where you can go and check about the readings. As I said in one part of the conversation, I'm really infusing these with my own flavor and the things that I feel very excited about. So yeah, if this energy has resonated, I think you're going to find it very, very beautiful place for you there. And I'm on Instagram at Nourishing Witch also. So you can come and hang out there and get to, explore with me as I create and do the things that I love doing.
Spell Nourishing Witch for anyone who's wondering how to spell it.
I'm a non-native speaker. Spelling things out loud is the hardest thing ever.
It's like trying to count in another language. Like, Okay, so it's Nourishing, NOURISHING, and then Witch, WITCH.
Yes.
.com. So the same thing on Instagram at Nourishing Witch, and your podcast that you just created.
Yes. So my podcast is called Soul Rebels. And it's very much in that same spirit of energy, magic, truth, expansion. Yes. It's a place where I get to give my very active throat a creative expression.
I love that.
So it's really about the things that are alive inside of me. And that's my commitment to it. I'm going to show up for the podcast and come out and share things with you that feel very alive within me. And I would love to have you there if this resonates with you.
Yes. I listened, while I was listening to the podcast, I kept holding myself back from commenting on your page at the same time. When something just strikes you and you just want to say how excited you are. And I was like, calm down, listen to the whole thing first. But when I went on your page and commented, I was like, you had me at Rebels. Yes.
Awesome.
You had me at Rebels. Okay, so there are a couple of other things that I wanted to touch on. I want them to come back to me. One of them is actually embracing the energy of the witch.
Hello, huge part of this journey.
So there has just been so much that we've been fed about witches and who, witchcraft and who a witch is. And this came back to me because I watched is it Brave? This Disney movie, I think Pixar, Disney or Pixar, Irish movie.
Yeah.
Brave, that's what it's called. Yes.
Yeah.
And whenever I'm going through different like emotional states, I can think of like the movie to help to balance me. So I needed like some strong, fierce, feminine power at that point, and I was like, "Yep, let me get that Disneyland
Brave
from my brother, so I can, so I can watch Brave." And as they were telling the story, I was like, I'm now able to see the hidden messages in things that shape our perception in really deep and strong ways. Because it's as though this witch really messed up in whatever formula she gave the princess. Like she made a hot mess and the entire movie, the entire animated movie was fixing the thing that the witch did that was wrong, right? So we see it in those subtle ways, like, oh, you can't trust a witch because, like, look what she did.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm noticing about mainstream media, like movies and, these series, there is like 1 hour and 25 minutes of things going wrong and like these hidden messages and 5 minutes of a happy ending. But then you've already brainwashed the person for like the 99% of the movie. That 5 minutes of a happy ending, that doesn't cover for those hidden messages you've told me about witches. And there are also really strong messages about, masculine energy and how it's inferior to the feminine energy. So we're soaking up all of these things. Our children are soaking up all of these things and we don't know. But to be a witch, it is powerful and magical.
Yes.
To name that you're a witch also takes a lot of courage. So I just want to leave that there and allow you to share whatever is coming up for you right now.
Awesome. So I'm turning 32 next month. So for solid 31 years, as much as art has been part of my life, I've had this sense of, witchiness. Let's go like that. I've been attracted to crystals, oracle decks, astrology, like the moon, everything. Yeah. And of course we can call that spiritual, but I think that this is what I've come to understand. And it is a very kind of like dark intersection of the history of witches, So if you look back, when did a witch become a bad thing? If you think of it, it's basically the installment of a patriarchal system that saw that like women that were wandering around the forest, picking up herbs, that could challenge, quote unquote, like the God-given curse or like the God, because that's how a lot of the medicine was a lot of illnesses were interpreted, that were just like punishments of God. And there comes this woman with this, I don't know, potion, herb, a herbal tea, and defies that. Well, where are we standing then? And they seem unruly. They seem to go by their own rule book. So this is like the intersection of the patriarchy and the rebel within me. And for a very long time, I feel like I danced around that. Like I moved around it. Like I never dared to call myself a witch. I had these inner jokes with my friends that we were going to like go for like a witch hour. And we were just going to go and shuffle oracle card decks for each other and stuff like that. Again, crystals everywhere, the whole thing. And it was only until last year. And so this is a very interesting story. Last year, after that breakdown where I found human design, I started experimenting with it, and then I had these. We went for an Airbnb because everything was on lockdown, but we just needed to get out of the house. So we went to this place, and I entered the place, and right at the front there was a massive rosemary bush and a huge rose quartz. And I was like, this place is groovy. It was a really tiny room with a little garden. But I was like, wow, like I see you kind of thing. I recognize that.
Yeah.
And then after that, I had, like this idea just came up of doing a witch summer camp. And I felt like this is the most exciting thing ever. I'm going to bring like all these witchy elements, and then we get to play for a whole summer. And then the physical terror of doing that.
Yeah.
A lot of that ancestral like fear.
Yeah.
But I was, and I thought for so, like, I was like, maybe I'm not going to call it witch summer camp. Maybe I'll just call it like, I don't know, spirit, or, something more. Yes, with less of an edge, with less of a history.
Less of a history.
And I tell you, it's almost like the energy behind her, if we're gonna personify it, was like no. And every single time that I thought about it, it was like I just felt it in my body, like a solid no. We're not gonna change it. And I did. In the end, I released it. I had no freaking clue if like it was gonna stick, quote unquote. And then the response from that was just so beautiful. And I have a special one of the ladies that joined. She was like, this is incredible. I felt this energy coming like, to me so much. And you got me at witch, like kind of like what you said, you got me at rebel. Like she was like, you got me at witch. I was like, whoa, can you imagine? I would have changed it. I would have missed her. Yeah. And not per se, it would have missed the resonance with it.
Yes.
But back then I did that, but my business and like my, the whole branding and everything had no witch in it. Like there was like, that was kind of too far down the edge, but it just felt exciting. And because I had been experimenting with my human design, and it was a lot about following what felt exciting rather than what I thought it should be, I gave myself permission to explore that. And then towards the end of the summer, I just had a revelation one day. I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is nourishing witch. And I've got to stop dancing around the magic and plunge in it. And, and then from there, I've been creating a tarot deck. I've been, and now it feels like, okay, awesome. I have a freaking playground. and this whole thing, because before it was like, is the crystal the thing? Is the astrology the thing? Mm-hmm. Are the essential oils the thing? Yeah. Is the tarot the thing? Mm-hmm. And what I realized is like, no, I am the thing. And I am animating these because this is the things that make me feel really excited. Wow. And then I think because I had that previous experience with a witch summer camp, and it had a beautiful reception, and it was a really, really cool group, and we went through the whole summer learning about the things that I'm very excited about teaching. Then the transition into actually owning the word witch was way less charged. Yeah. Like it just felt like a reclamation. It just felt like, hell yes. Reclamation. Yeah. So I love when people say like witch. I love challenging that. And the funny thing is, I haven't had that many people that I don't know if it's because energetically there's a resonance, like I'm clicked in the right way. Mm-hmm. I thought that I would have like more pushback. I don't know, whatever. Yeah. I don't. But when there's like that kind of like like odd looking eyes that it's like, what is she talking about? I remind them of that, of like who told you that witches were bad? Yeah. And there's this beautiful quote that I'm kind of like gonna butcher, and I'm thinking that it's from Roseanne Gay. I probably also butcher her name. She's a feminist. She's beautiful, like activist for female rights. And she has this quote that it's something like, unruly women have been called witches in all centuries. And it's that unruliness. That's like, the rebel spirit, the I'm not gonna just solo this just because it's what it is kind of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So powerful. And I love that you personified her energy. You said she was like, this is it. This is what we're doing. Like, you could feel that force.
And that's something that I've been playing with lately, and it feels so good.
Yeah.
Like the things that I'm creating do have that sense. That's what I also mentioned that at the very beginning when I was introducing myself, is like, I'm working with the thing that I'm creating, but I'm also working with the energy that is behind the creation, So if I'm creating something with my hands, that's again, 0.0001% of the thing. And then the rest is an energetic signature, an energetic imprint, a personified energy, if that works. And it's fantastic. I freaking love it.
Yeah.
It's so exciting.
Amazing. So I'll share what's coming up for me now, because as a coach, or also just like being an intuitive person, I read people's energy and I support people in becoming aware of the energy that they're holding. So I already know that as we're having this conversation and using the word witch over and over again, and even using the word energy, but probably to a deeper extent, witch, someone is going to be activated in a way that they experience fear. Or they just want to stay away from it altogether because of the fear. Right? So for you who are listening right now, I want you to tune into what's happening in your body. Is there something in your chest? Is there something in your neck, your throat area? Is there something in your gut? Just tune into that and allow yourself to breathe into that. Because if you're having the visceral reaction that you're having, it means that there's some connection that you have to this story. And it also means that there's an opportunity for healing here. Because what we've known over centuries is that women have been held back. The story of our creation is that it was the woman who brought us into sin to begin with. So it's almost as though to the core of who we are, we're already flawed and we're already wrong. And there have been these messages centuries over centuries that keep telling us that we are the ones in the wrong. That just by our existence, we are like unworthy, less than. And so to be a rebel, not only do you have to overcome what the standard is, you also have to develop more courage to go against the power. Not only do you have to overcome the thing that they've told you, that
the inner story.
Exactly. You need to go against the existing power. So that might be activated within you right now, that fear, that even having this conversation, even exploring this topic, even learning more about this, you are going up against some power. And what does that mean to you? Does that feel safe?
And here is something that I think is super important is, I mean, if you've come to this place of the conversation, we've been already talking for a while. And if until the word witch, there was like nothing there, like there was just excitement and joy. And if the word is the one that it's catalyzing that, I want you to feel into the intention of it.
Yeah.
Because, it's almost like in the movies, right? And you have these incredible movies where the wizards and the witches are just this incredible, majestic, like wise people. And then of course you also have the movies where they are depicted as the worst character in the plot, right? And you can have very pure intention behind it, and you can have like some really like otherworldly stuff. So again, if this is like, oh, okay, I don't know how I'm feeling about this, I wholeheartedly invite you to walk towards towards my world and have a feeling of, like of what it feels like to enter the spaces where I create, whether that's my website or my Instagram, and just have a taste for yourself. Yeah, and if after that there's still something scary, you can always text me and we can always talk. But I don't know. This is just my experience, and I chose the word witch because it has a charge to it. And because it does, if you are, if you're aligned with this, it's almost like an immediate recognition.
Right.
And if you are feeling like if there's some tension there, you also immediately recognize it. Yeah. As if I leave it in the more palatable in-betweens. What
for no one.
Yeah.
Right? It becomes nothing for no one.
Yeah, indeed.
And I'm also going to share a part of my own journey because there are so many similarities in our move towards greater and greater authenticity. Like when I just started this work or coaching in this way, so really building coaching for birth warriors, I am like woo at my core. Like that is who I am. And I wasn't always that way. I grew up as like a nature child. We had like a lot of land growing up in Jamaica. So I would always be like roaming and just like experiencing nature around me. But when I came here, this is when I was first exposed to spirituality in, I'm going to use the term new age, which I am like not that into, but other people will like know what I mean by new age. But spirituality in that sense. And it's like the only thing or the thing that has made the most sense to me. Right? Like I can touch a crystal or a stone and feel the energy. And that's how I like buy the crystal that I want. And then I might ask, oh, what's this one? And they might say, oh, that's for communication. Makes perfect sense.
Yep.
Exactly what I need right now. Right? Or I might be guided to a book or a conversation or a color that I'm wearing, and it's exactly the thing that I wanted or that I need to like balance my energy at this time, right? Like songs and music and just like, I think of it as really being in tune and connected with spirit, right? And not having to like really embodying our magic. I have a mentor who says like, you are the medicine. Just like you said, like, it's me. It's not the crystals and the aromatherapy and that. It's me. Like, I am the magic. I am the medicine. And when you give yourself the freedom to express that, you might call it being a witch. You might call it other things, but then you get to be you. And release this matrix, this structure that we're in that tells us that we need to be something else. We need to conform to this box.
Totally. I mean, I was just thinking while you were talking, I grew up, I went 13 years of my life to Catholic school. I grew up Catholic.
Wow.
To come out as a witch is not the easiest path. It's not the easiest trajectory that you would think of. But it that's the thing, it feels true and it feels yummy and it has given me, again, like a sense of playground where I get to create these worlds and these things that I want to create and these experiences that I want to share with other people. Yeah. And they are all rooted in creativity, in an understanding of energy, in an understanding of that, the magic of that energy, and the rest is just form.
Exactly. Yeah. In my own business, I definitely started it not feeling as though it would be, not feeling as though talking about energy would have been received well or understood. And I've gone through levels and levels of those fears being released and unlocked. And I had, when was it? I think it was in January that I finished this, the second level of this course in energy healing based in Kemetic energy, so ancient Egypt, which so much of what was discovered there is what we're currently using in these high establishment technological places, right? So much wisdom has been, I'm just going to leave that there. Anyone who wants to do research into that, feel free to. But something was unlocked there. And as being trained as healers ourselves, we all had to go through healing experiences. So it was like being in a tribe in Africa where there was music and people surrounding you and dancing and drumming. And those are the things that break up the energy and release it. And there was energy being broken up in my womb area, right? So that I was feeling something lifting out of my body that no longer needed to be there. Like with the pure energy that I was becoming, this heaviness that I was holding on to, it could no longer exist in this space of my body anymore. And I remember the days after that sending a message to the group of women and my trainer who were part of this healing and saying, I feel, it's making me emotional, like I feel an openness and a freedom in my hips that I don't remember ever feeling in my life.
Wow.
Yeah. And I've been on my healing journey for years, but I think you just get to go deeper and deeper. And when I got to that place, I was like, why am I denying this thing that is real? Right? Because I fear that others won't understand it or that I am not able to prove it. Like I am the proof.
I am a walking, living proof of this.
I have woken up with freedom in my body and more confidence than I've ever had. I've been thinking of you too as this came to me, that I have been singing more than I have sang before. I've also been louder than I have before. I've been laughing more than I have before. And I've also been crying more than I have before. It's like the full range are so expressive in my body because something was unlocked. And that's what healing does. You get to be all of who you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And after that, I did a podcast episode on ancestral healing. I've never gone into any of those topics before. I try to stay in the scientific, logical realm. People who've been listening to me for a while know that I dabble in a little bit of magic and energy, but I'm like, science says, here's the proof behind it. And for this conversation, I was like, I don't have a plan. I don't have a script. I don't have any talking points. Spirit wants to speak or the ancestors want to speak. I'm going to set up my mic and I'm just going to speak. I spoke for an hour and a half. And after that, like that episode has been one of the highest downloaded episodes. And I was like, wow, doesn't authenticity pay?
Every day.
Every day, all day, every day. And people finding me, they resonate with who I am now.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's
and I think, I can so relate to that because I feel like I was kind of like in the same place. I always wanted to talk about these things.
Right.
Like I was always like with everyone, in a conversation, having a coffee, catching up with friends. Like we would always end up in some version of either trying to understand like what we were feeling, what we were going through, our energy, even if we didn't like call it energy, whatever. you know? And I feel like for so long, I did that, you know. It was kind of like we're talking about it when we're not really naming it, so we don't really know what it is, so no one actually knows what it is. I didn't know what it was either. And what I feel in the past year, what I felt in the past year, it's like, wow, you know, the more I am myself, the more it's kind of like, for the people that I was kind of like afraid that they wouldn't get me, are they wholeheartedly, honestly my people? Whether they're friends or clients or, you know, anything. Are they really my people if they're not willing to go here? Like, and they don't even need to know. They don't even, like, simple curiosity, simple, like, I want to know more. Like, tell me what it is like to, you know, to be like you, to experience life like you. And that's it. You know, if we have that little window of curiosity there, then I'm wholeheartedly in for answering any questions and for having a conversation, and equally interested in the other person's world, you know. And that doesn't mean that, like, we need to believe exactly in the same thing, but if we vibe there, if we feel the resonance there, well, we just let it develop, and it develops always. Like, it always goes somewhere, and it takes us like really cool places. So I'm in for that ride, and for sure that's been something that I feel like it has become more real as I have become more real to myself. Yeah.
I feel full. I feel complete.
Awesome. That is perfect.
I don't have any more questions. I don't need to say anything else. If I could just like nap into this energy right now.
Kind of like a bathtub of this energy, and just like laying there. Yes. Are there any final words that you have? Is there anything else that you want to say? That I'm very grateful that you opened this space for me to share this story. And for, you know, if you're listening to this, I'm also very, very grateful that you took the time to, you know, I don't know if you're walking, driving, washing your dishes, whatever, that you decided that we were good company. That feels very, very, very yummy in my heart. So thank you for that.
And thank you, Andrea, for just who you are and how you show up and being your authentic self, right? Because then we can recognize each other and play in that space.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, this has been another episode of the Preparing for Pregnancy After Loss podcast, and so much more, right? This has been so much more than just this podcast episode. I know that so much has been activated in you who are listening. You're being turned on to so much right now. Your fire is being lit up right now. And there might be some discomfort, and even in the discomfort, allow yourself to ease into that and see what that is, because there might be a gift there for you.
Absolutely.
Yes. But I'm confident that this is love. This is mostly love, because I can feel it. And I know that those who need this, those who want this, those who have been asking for this affirmation, they're receiving it.
Yes.
Thank you all. This has been another episode, and again, so much more. You know where to find me on Instagram at The Birth Warriors all together. My website, nataliefacey.com. If you want to come and hang out with me in Facebook, the Facebook community is the Birth Warrior Community on Facebook. And again, please share your details, Andrea, so that people can check you out.
My website is nourishingwitch.com, and my Instagram is the same, nourishingwitch.